Alrighty, everybody, welcome back to another live stream here on the channel. Hopefully everyone is having a fantastic Monday so far. Let's see who we have on in here today. We have Ben, Catman, Edits, as well as Rockets, Liam, Some. Let me go down a little bit more. We have Pete, Caden, Proxy, let's see, Weston, Maury, Storm Chaser, Weather Warrior, Phoenix. I'm going to go up just a bit because I know some people were chatting earlier. Indiana, glad to have you in here as well. And everyone else who's watching who may not be chatting, or if I missed you, glad to see you in here as well. Kaylee and Alt. Now, I was having for some reason, some overlay issues today. I tried to get those resolved, and then right before stream, 4 minutes before stream, my overlay screwed up. So we're going to see together if this is screwed up or not. It looks perfectly fine. Okay, it was completely screwed up. I don't know what was wrong with it, but I got it fixed, and then it screwed up 4 minutes before stream. Then I scrambled to fix it as fast as possible, and I almost was a minute late, but I got it done in time. So, yeah, thankfully that is done and over with. Hopefully I don't get another weird overlay bug like that. But hopefully everyone's having a great Monday. We're going to obviously be talking about our threat for severe weather. Let's go over to our right on over to our Storm Prediction Center outlooks. We've got a very action-packed day 1 through 3 outlooks here from the SPC. Starting today, we'll zoom in all the way so you can see this easier. We do have a enhanced risk for severe weather today. Not surprised by that by any means. We've had significant uptrends over the last 24 hours. Slight risk surrounding that, as well as a marginal risk surrounding that. They have introduced a 10% tornado risk. Would not be surprised if they go ahead and expand that 10% and actually make it hatched up into northwestern Oklahoma, and also wouldn't be that surprised if they end up pushing it more to the southeast and adding a hatch risk down here. I think the greatest tornado threat will be when storms first fire in western Oklahoma, and then I think we could have a little bit more of a long duration significant tornado threat out in and north of the DFW area up to just south of the OKC region. We'll go through all of our model runs in a couple minutes on that. Going into your damaging wind threat, they've outlined a 30% chance for damaging winds. Wouldn't be shocked if that goes hatched for the eastern side either. Could see some significant damaging winds up to about 80 miles per hour in and northeast of the DFW area. Also some isolated large hail when those storms first get going. Wouldn't be shocked to see up to about 2-inch in diameter large hail in between south central Kansas all the way down to almost central Texas. So we'll keep a very close eye on that hail threat as well. Hail threat may be a little bit more substantial in western North Carolina, western Oklahoma. Kane, you must have missed it. Like I mentioned, I think we'll see a hatched risk added in that 10% expanded more to the northeast. I think we'll see a hatched risk as well as that 10% expanded to the south and southeast, maybe even to the southwest as well. I don't know if the whole thing will go hatched or not. We'll see what they do at their 8 p.m. Eastern update. I don't think we're going to end up being live for that, but I wouldn't be shocked if they add a pretty large hatched risk, at least in western Oklahoma and at least in north central Texas. Going into day 2, bit of an interesting one here. The enhanced risk did expand in all directions like I predicted yesterday, but it's actually a bit different. Definitely not the outlook I was originally anticipating yesterday to see here on our day 2 outlook for Tuesday. And they've actually gone ahead and expanded that hatched risk quite substantially more to the northwest. I'll show you why, but I'm not in full agreement on the expansion being so far to the northwest. I do see the 10%, but I don't personally see the 10 sig being a needed thing that far northwest. They did expand that sig risk to the southeast quite considerably, like I was talking about in yesterday's stream, but a little bit questioning on why they pulled that 10 and 10 sig so far to the north and west there. Damaging wind threat, no surprise here. This is definitely a pretty good valid outlook here. You've got that large 30% wind risk there, and then the hatched area right there for potentially 80, 85 mile an hour winds being a possibility going into Tuesday. We'll keep an eye on that. I'll show you again on why that wind threat actually may not be as substantial as what they're showing here with up to 80 or so mile per hour winds being possible. We could still see some isolated 80 mile per hour winds, but I don't think it's going to be as notable as what models were showing a couple days ago. Hail threat, very minimal. I really don't see any well-defined area of a hail risk here. It's just a very large, broad 5%. I don't think they'll add a slight risk. I believe tomorrow the greatest threat will be damaging winds. I am agreeing with the SPC on that. The hatched risk, in my opinion, may need to go a little bit more north. I'll show you why in just a minute. And then that tornado threat, like I said, in my opinion, too far to the northwest. But overall, pretty good outlook from the SPC. I just think they are pushing it a little bit too far northwest at the moment. Then going into day 3, this is when we're going to move on into Wednesday's threat for severe weather. They've maintained a broad slight risk for severe weather with the possibility of supercells capable of all hazards entering western North Carolina, central North Carolina, western and central Virginia going into the afternoon hours. I've actually been reintroduced to the slight risk for severe weather. I was removed at one point. They've actually gone ahead and added me back for the potential of tornadoes in the afternoon hours. So obviously we'll be chasing in probably my local area, pointing to the south and east going into Wednesday, depending on how trends evolve there. All hazards, large hail, damaging winds, and a couple tornadoes will be a possibility. After that, they have not outlined any other notable threats for severe weather. They are talking about the chance for severe weather on Saturday, March 8th, which we mentioned that a couple live streams ago, but they are yet to denote anything on their day 4 through 8 outlook. And the rest of their outlooks you can see here. Day 8 is potential too low, so we'll keep an eye on Saturday and Sunday of this upcoming week, but it's a little too far out for the SPC to denote any specified higher probabilities of a slight risk. And I think that is, the fire risk, we'll go over that just briefly. We do have a level 3 out of 3 fire risk in portions of southeastern New Mexico and much of extreme western Texas. Anything that's, could ignite out here, please do not burn whatsoever. Don't burn anything. Don't cook outside. Nothing whatsoever. Because any type of ember or anything that sparks, we could see extreme rapid development of wildfires today. And as well as going into tomorrow, also have that level 3 out of 3 there in South Central Texas. Again, don't burn whatsoever if you're in any of these risks, but especially that extreme risk 3 out of 3 there. Any type of ember, the tiniest little spark could get a wildfire going, and it would be completely out of control with how rapid our winds are going to be in this area thanks to that big trough ejection and the jet stream it's going to pull in behind it. So do not burn whatsoever in any of the elevated critical or extreme risks, but especially that extreme risk. That's where our wildfires could burn very, very rapidly. Also, elevated risk was introduced tomorrow out here in Virginia, North Carolina, West Virginia, Tennessee, southeastern Kentucky. Don't burn there as well. We'll keep an eye on that, but I don't think it's going to end up being as big of a fire risk as what we had the other day. We had a critical risk in western North Carolina. I don't think this one's going to live up to that higher end of fire potential. And then we also have fire risks outlined on day 4 and day 5 in southeastern New Mexico and western Texas. All right, so that's all the outlooks from the Storm Prediction Center there. I'm going to go ahead and close that on this end, and we're going to pull up model runs. Model runs for the 900th time this week. Starting out here, actually, with our newest 21Z, this is 22Z, we'll go with our 21Z HRRR. We should see explosive rapid development of intense supercells along a dry line thanks to a cold front that's going to be pushing in and igniting that dry line. That's going to cause rapid development of supercells likely between the time frame of 10:30 and 11 p.m. Eastern. Right around that time frame, we should see those supercells rapidly explode. They will continue to explode along that dry line from central Kansas down into eventually central Texas as we go through the next hour or so. And then by 1 a.m. Eastern, we should have generally a very large line from central Kansas all the way down to portions of central Texas. You can see that will continue to explode. The greatest tornado threat, just rewinding it just a little bit here, greatest tornado threat will definitely be focused with supercells that fire in western Oklahoma between the 10:30 and midnight time frame. The first hour, hour and a half will be the greatest tornado threat there in Oklahoma before those storms relatively weaken. They will not weaken rapidly like the HRRR portrays. They will weaken more gradually and slowly as the capping eventually wins on the thunderstorms. And then as we go through the very early morning hours of tomorrow, we're talking about 3, 4 a.m., a secondary peak of strong tornado activity may be introduced across and just to the north-northwest of the DFW area as stronger cells could move through that area going into your very early morning hours tomorrow morning. Then as we get into the actual valid outlook date of Tuesday, which is 12Z, that's 7 a.m. Eastern, that line will continue eastward, could continue to see brief spin-up tornadoes, damaging winds 60, 70 miles per hour, and some small hail will be possible with those cells earlier in the morning hours tomorrow before everything begins to cluster up as we go towards the 10 a.m. time frame, decreasing just a bit on our model runs here, going back to the older data, the 18Z HRRR, so it's not as fresh. So if we go ahead and pull this all the way out till 1 p.m. Eastern, that's when our tornado threat will begin to very slowly increase across portions of far eastern Louisiana. Notice how we pretty much skip the entire area of east of the DFW all the way until about the Shreveport area. The tornado threat in that region is extremely low, in my opinion, even though the SBC has gone ahead and denoted some of those areas up to a 10 hatched risk. So I really don't think we'll see much of a tornado threat until about the noon, 1 p.m. Eastern time frame. That's when some instability could begin to reach a little further north into northeastern, east central Louisiana. Brief spin-up tornado threat there. Really don't see anything notable. Still not really denoting a hatched tornado threat, at least on the HRRR. Very, very messy. Which results in really just a overall local area of low-end tornado potential. The highest threat for tornadoes will be focused along a corridor of potential confluence bands and or when that dry line and cold front continue to meet up over portions of eastern Louisiana, southern Mississippi, southwestern Alabama. That's the only true area that I believe we could see an isolated significant tornado threat going into Tuesday. If we look at our ingredients here, you can see that is the area where they overlap the most from about the realms of 7 p.m. Eastern all the way through near the 11 p.m. Eastern time frame in that region. If we do pull it back a little bit more, you can see the ingredients will be definitely quite potent across portions of Louisiana and far eastern Texas. However, the overconvection mess because of that cold front dry line here, and then your initiating boundary right in that area because of those cells that fire thanks to the weak EML, going to keep that threat relatively minimal across much of western Louisiana, much of extreme eastern Texas, very early tomorrow morning into the early afternoon hours of Tuesday. Pushing on after that, we could still see an isolated brief spin up strong tornado here in portions of south central Alabama and far western panhandle of Florida as we go throughout the overnight hours. But overall, it is still a very messy, sloppy, severe weather threat. Not really anything I am overly concerned about anymore. The threat continues to downtrend. I have noted and have seen some uptrends, but they're very minimal. They're not notable uptrends in our model runs. It's still generally going to be the same severe threat, if not even less than a 10 significant threat for tornadoes. Obviously, this is one scenario. If we go to the NAM3K, it does give that scenario of more of a confluence band setting up across southeastern Louisiana, south central, southeastern Mississippi, southwest Alabama. That's another scenario where our strong tornado threat could be a little bit greater in that area towards, again, the 7 p.m. towards 9 p.m. time frame, right around there. But overall, it is still relatively conditional. It is a conditional tornado threat, despite the SPC having a very large 10 hatched risk. I really do not see much in that area. Obviously, some last-minute uptrends are definitely possible as we get surface observations tomorrow morning. But right now, definitely nowhere near impressed with Tuesday compared to any of the other days. I'm really not impressed whatsoever. So really not out all that worried for Tuesday. We definitely could have a couple weak tornadoes, but in terms of a widespread strong tornado outbreak, definitely not nearly as potent looking as what it once was. At least that's my opinion. Maybe we could see some other model runs that uptrend significantly. Me and Lucky looked at that on the in his live stream earlier. Holy crap. Did I just summon Lucky or something? I think I just summoned the dude. Good morning, Lucky. But we talked about that on his live stream earlier today. There is the possibility of some other scenarios where this bunch of overconvection doesn't really it doesn't really happen because your cold front and dry line catches up to that initiating boundary that eventually initiated in eastern Texas. You could see it initiated right here in eastern, I consider that eastern Texas, just barely northwest of Houston. So some models do have that cold front dry line catching up a lot quicker with that initiating boundary in southeastern Louisiana, south central Mississippi. That could promote a more discrete storm mode, but that scenario is very low at this point. I'm not very confident in that happening. He's trying to be like me. I say good morning no matter what time it is. And if we go ahead and go back to the HRRR, my bad, didn't mean to switch to the NAM there. So back to the HRRR, going into those overnight hours, 1 a.m., 2 a.m. Again, could see a brief spin-up tornado in this general area. Brief strong spin-up tornado can't be fully ruled out in the overnight hours towards the panhandle of Florida, far southern Alabama. And then pulling that even forward more, 10 a.m., 11 a.m. Wednesday, the entire line begins to weaken. And this is something that continues to uptrend. The HRRR is actually considered an outlier in this part here due to it underdoing dew points. If we look at pretty much every model run, look at this area right in here. That sharp corridor between about Danville down towards Charlotte. If we look at the HRRR, you can see it really, the HRRR denotes an area of 50 to 52 dew points across this entire area. The NAM model, same time frame, 59, well, actually 57 to 59 dew points across that region. NAM 3K, again, 57, well, maybe a little bit lower towards Charlotte, 55 to generally 59 dew points. Look at the GFS, which global model runs you don't really want to look at, especially getting this close. The GFS is closer to the HRRR. It is running a little slightly above the HRRR, but GFS, in my opinion, I'm considering that also not necessarily an outlier, just the fact that it's a global model and we're getting closer makes me not want to use it anymore. Same goes for the European model run as well. We have CAM, so there's really no point in looking at these global models unless you're talking about trough geometry for the threat for severe weather. So really, in my opinion, oh, also the RAP model, I didn't show that. The RAP model for that same time frame, Let's see. I gotta get the right. This is not the wrap model. That's okay. There you go. Let's do. I forgot which one. Okay, this one's gonna go out. All right, so there's this about the same time frame as the HRRR, and you can see that's still running from 55 to about 60-degree dew points as well. So overall, I think the HRRR is an outlier at the moment, at least for the North Carolina-Virginia threat. And definitely going to watch it very closely. You can see the 18Z NAM initiates off of that cold front boundary multiple semi-discrete supercells all the way from, I don't know, is that like near Fayetteville, North Carolina? Haven't been down in that area too much. From generally that area all the way up into far southeastern West Virginia at the, gotta do the conversion, that's the 6 p.m. time frame for Wednesday. Oh, actually, no, that's earlier. Yeah, that's 5 p.m., 1 hour off. 5 p.m. time frame. So we're going to keep a very close eye on that. There's still a chance that I go after these cells in Eastern NC, but at this point, I really feel like that's not going to be worth it. Going pretty much almost to the Outer Banks just to see HP supercells. So I'm really more focused on this threat back here that we've been mentioning for who knows how long. And we'll see how that trends on the HRRR model run late tonight and especially through the day tomorrow. The further we get with this event, the more accurate our model runs will be because they're going to end up getting closer. They're also going to end up getting through some of these events, which will lead towards less uncertainty. Go to the newest HRRR. This is the 22Z HRRR. And again, you can see the greatest tornado threat will be from near central Kansas all the way down into almost central Texas towards the 11 p.m. time frame as those storms explode. Talking about ingredients here, ingredients are not an issue. We have very high-end ingredients out here. The only issue is technically instability. However, we are going to have a very strong cold front hit that dry line rapidly, and it's going to result in an explosion of thunderstorms, which will mean this is going to grow upscale really quickly. You are going to have a 30-minute to an hour window of a strong tornado threat before this explodes right on into a complete wind threat, isolated spin-up tornado threat. So that might keep the Storm Prediction Center from upgrading the tornado threat to a hatched. Same goes for this area. It's a little bit different here, though, but that might grow upscale too quickly, resulting in more of a wind threat and slightly less of a significant tornado threat. Still a tornado threat, but maybe not significant if it grows upscale that quickly. So personally, I'll be keeping an eye on this time frame here. I'll be up at this time frame. This is about the 11 p.m. Eastern time frame. I'll keep an eye on it. If need be, I may initiate an urgent live stream. A little uncertain at this moment. It will be a very brief threat for significant tornadoes. So we'll keep an eye on it and see what happens. Obviously, it's also good to note that, you know, we are now day of the event for this threat, so it's not going to be as accurate and as useful to be using the HRRR, especially watching every single HRRR render in, even though I'm still going to do it. You can say what you want, Royalty. Personally, I don't really think it's going to be an outbreak, but the Storm Prediction Center is calling for several tornadoes possible today, as well as a couple strong tornadoes possible tomorrow. So both enhanced risks, both being a 10% or higher, that's what's led me to say tornado outbreak likely. And it's still possible. I don't think we'll see a very strong tornado threat. That's my opinion. I don't see a notable strong tornado threat. I still see a tornado threat, We could definitely end up with a few tornadoes, or rather several tornadoes in this area overnight tonight, but I just don't feel like they're going to be multiple strong tornadoes at this moment. Like I said, we may have brief opportunities. We may have brief opportunities for a strong tornado threat in the morning, or not in the morning, in the very first hour of these storms firing, but I'm not too sure about that. How is the title misleading? Tornado outbreak likely, which means 6 or more tornadoes. SPC is calling for several tornadoes tonight, multiple tornadoes tomorrow. I said strong tornadoes possible. The SPC says strong tornadoes possible. Are you... Hello? Like, what? Misleading my foot. Sure, buddy. Whatever you say. And then again, we could have a couple strong tornadoes possible in this area as well. I personally don't see it, but the SPC does. The SPC does see it. Thank you for the $5 donation. Greatly appreciated. What time and what should I be expecting Macon, Georgia? Let me see. I'll just look at that really quick. I'm not really planning on doing zip codes. You're in the marginal risk for severe weather for tomorrow night. So probably not going to get much. Some damaging winds up to 60 miles per hour and maybe a brief tornado threat, as well as very small hail. Can't be completely ruled out. But overall, it's mainly going to be winds. Winds will be your main threat. Up to 60 mile an hour winds, half-inch hail, and a brief spin-up tornado can't be ruled out. I mean, yeah, the setup... I mean, this looked like the perfect setup like 6 days ago when the SPC introduced that enhanced risk on the day 6 outlook. And then slowly as we got closer, it really didn't downtrend much until like the last 2 days. And then we realized the warm sector is probably going to end up being misplaced, as well as over convection thanks to cams. Once the cam models rendered in, then we were like, okay, yeah, this threat is going to start downtrending and not being as significant as what we originally were thinking. I mean, shoot, at one point, like Ben said, Reed called it a possible super outbreak. Let's see. I mean, in terms of like what I think the strongest threat will be, definitely damaging winds, but where, if you're talking about like a strong tornado threat, will be, let me go back to the SPC. This is tonight's outlook here. Here's the HRRR. So for strong tornado threats, I think it's going to be this area here, towards the a little sooner, 1 a.m. to about 3 a.m. Eastern time frame for a strong tornado threat. And then I also think when these cells first fire between 10:30 to 12:30 tonight, we could have an isolated strong tornado threat there as well. And then after that, it grows upscale linear quickly. Same goes for the southern mode, and overall the threat remains as, potentially significant damaging winds, 70, 75 miles per hour possible, small hail, couple spin-up tornadoes would be possible with that line as it moves eastward. So Shreveport's threat downtrended, at least on model runs, quite a lot. If we look at the SPC, they've actually gone ahead and increased your tornado threat in Shreveport. They've put all of Shreveport under that hatched risk for severe weather. So, according to them, you have a threat for significant tornadoes tomorrow, as well as damaging winds of about 75 miles per hour, and some small hail up to about 1.5 inch in diameter. But you can see here In my opinion, we're just going to see this large area of overconvection that's going to lead towards a very minimal, strong tornado threat. Now, as the line pulls through, I do believe that. I do believe we could see a line potentially up to 70, 75 miles per hour move through Shreveport with a brief spin-up tornado threat. But I don't see a strong tornado threat out of this line in this area. The strong tornado threat I see more towards the late, no, I depends on when you consider the evening hours. 7 p.m. How about that? I was gonna say late evening. This is kind of mid-evening per se, depending on what you call evening. So about 7 p.m. Eastern. That's where I see the strong tornado threat peaking in this area. So we'll see what the SPC does with their day 2 outlook as it becomes day 1. Personally, I agree with the damaging wind threat. I agree with the very large broad hail threat. I'm a little bit less on agreement on the extent of that significant tornado threat. However, they're obviously the professionals, so we'll see if that verifies with how far northwest that 10 sig goes. And then, of course, tonight's tornado threat, they have that big, quite large 10% tornado risk. Again, they may extend that northwest and southwest and denote a hatched risk on both of those areas, but their confidence may be too low in terms of these supercells staying discrete. If they grow upscale very rapidly within 30 minutes to an hour, they're not going to have really much time to produce a strong tornado threat. So it wouldn't shock me if they did, and it wouldn't shock me if they didn't upgrade the tornado threat to hatched. It just depends on how much confidence they have on this being more of discrete supercells for the couple hours that they do fire. The first couple hours that they fire. And if they have low confidence on that, they're not going to put that to hatched. Let's see, 22Z HRRR here. Again, it's going to be when these cells first fire. You can see this actually now shows 10 p.m. Eastern they fire, maybe even before that. Just within like the first hour of them firing, that's going to be the greatest tornado threat in my opinion. Right when they first fire and they are discrete enough, that's going to be your highest threat for a strong tornado or two. And then after that, they grow upscale very, very rapidly, and it's more of a spin-up tornado threat as opposed to a strong tornado threat. Same goes for down here, 1 a.m. Eastern. Could get a strong tornado being possible as those storms first start discrete, and then they rapidly turn clustered and messy, and most likely decrease that strong tornado threat into more of a weak, brief spin-up tornado threat. The ingredients are still high out here, right? Okay, yeah, I was just wanting to make sure of that. Let's take a sounding on that because I am a little interested. Maybe there's something that's going to keep that from being a notable tornado threat that I didn't see because I haven't pulled any pinpoint soundings yet. Let's take one just out in front of that convection on the NAM 3K. Move it right over here. See if this... Is it glitched again? Nope. Sweet. SPC updates for today's outlook in just under an hour and a half. 8 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so no really big red flags here. The only red flag I have is this is a really good sounding. You do have a capping inversion down here, but that's going to erode very rapidly once your cold front approaches. I do have some drier air aloft up here as well, but again, that's going to erode as cold front approaches. That may prevent prefrontals, which we don't have a prefrontal threat out here, so it doesn't even really matter. And then, of course, you have plenty of veering. Plenty of veering with height. A lot of veering with height through all levels of the atmosphere is denoted it down here with your wind shear. Lapse rates are good, almost up to 7 in the lower kilometers of the atmosphere. Still really good for instability as well. Again, that capping, not worried about it much. That cold front's going to slam the dry line and they're going to explode, so don't worry about the EML being too strong or the SIN being too strong. That cold front is going to ignite supercells tonight. Definitely a good hodograph. I'm not too sure of it being a perfect hodograph, but definitely a really good hodograph there for supercells. A little bit of convection contamination there. I just saw that. So definitely not a terrible sounding by any means. Nothing that makes me think tonight's threat's going to be limited on the first hour of those cells firing. I'm pretty sure, I'm pretty confident we'll have a strong tornado threat in the first hour of cells firing. Chances for snow for you? Let's check. Very high, I'd say. It's going to be a close call, but there's definitely going to be a very high chance for flurries. Anything that accumulates, I doubt it, but definitely a high chance for some flurries. You can see the wrap model does run a little bit warm, and it keeps a little bit of, I don't know if that's warm air aloft or, okay, just not cool enough at the surface for snow to fall, but definitely a high chance for snow Wednesday, for sure. Especially Wednesday afternoon. All models agree on you getting snow. Every single one of them. But I doubt it will actually accumulate. I'm not thinking it will actually accumulate to cause any delays or issues. 22Z HRRR is fully rendered in. And you can see it continues with that very big slop. It still has a very large slop in your warm sector there. Which is why I do disagree slightly with the SBC having that hatch risk so far to the northwest. And it's not just the HRRR, the NAM has it too. NAM 3K, NAM, HRRR, RAP model. They all have that slop in the morning hours. Now that slop's going to go away after the 1 p.m. time frame and potentially get a little bit more organized there. What's Ben saying? That's not good too. Wind shear where? What are we talking about, chat? You guys lost me. I looked away for a minute and you guys talking about wind shear. Are we talking about today's threat? Because ingredients really aren't the issue. It's more of the storm mode that's really the only limiting factor. Right now? Oh. Forecast, Mesoanalysis, continental U.S., surface 3 kilometer, 400 wind shear over western Oklahoma, 300 over western Oklahoma as well for lower kilometers. Where do you see that? What are you capping about? Let me go back here. Is it on like the HRRR? Is that what you're looking at? No. Who got that? Unless you're talking about... No, there's nowhere in the US where we have that type of wind shear. Let me see. Yeah, because that's not true. This map just updated like 15 minutes ago. And again, it shows surface 1 kilometer, 300. Surface 3 kilometer is 400. Which is... It's impressive, but it's definitely no 700. Or 600 to 700. And then I thought they were using the HRRR. Whoever it was using the HRRR. Soundings? Observed soundings or what? There ain't no way they're using observed soundings. Let's see. There's like no wind shear on that one. Whoever put that in the Discord, that's like no wind shear. That's too far, probably too far west. If you go a little bit more in front of it, that would probably be better. Okay. So if we go ahead and check the NAM, I'm wondering what that shows for initiation. I don't feel like the NAM's right. That definitely initiates way more. Ooh. More semi-discrete there. NAM 3K tries to follow that, but it's still messy. So yeah, definitely going to keep an eye on the threat for some semi-discrete supercells here towards the 1 a.m. and later time frame. And then, of course, going to keep an eye on some semi-discrete supercells when they first fire towards 10 p.m. Eastern time, western Oklahoma, south central Kansas. And yeah, if you guys are enjoying the live stream, make sure you hit that like button. We're at 61 likes. Also, if you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button with the notification bell set to all, so you know when I go live or upload a video. Again, an urgent live stream is possible tonight, most likely after the 8 p.m. time frame, because we'll probably end here. I don't know when exactly. But it's definitely possible I do an urgent live stream, especially if supercells start firing more semi-discretely and staying like that. So I'll just keep an eye on it. I'm going to watch it very, very closely tonight. But after like the midnight time frame, if things aren't really exploding by midnight, don't expect any type of urgent live stream. So it's possible I go live between 10 p.m. and midnight Eastern tonight. And tomorrow, I really don't think we'll need to be live until at the absolute earliest 3 p.m. But we may hold off as late as 6 p.m. So tomorrow I'll be live between 3 and 7 is what I'll say. Between 3 and 7 p.m. Eastern. I'm not going to do what I've normally done with these Dixie Alley threats and just think that model runs are overdoing convection so much to the point where I sit here for 9 hours waiting for things to pop off and then they never do. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for things to pop off, then come on here and track it for tomorrow. And if nothing pops off, we'll just be live at 6 p.m. Eastern anyways. So I'll definitely be live at or before 6 p.m. Eastern. Just such a messy day. I'm not expecting much Tuesday. I'm not expecting much tomorrow in this entire area. I really am not expecting much at all. Like, I wouldn't be surprised if this underperforms substantially. based on how models look like right now for a Tuesday. Our greatest threat for the next 40, for the entire severe threat, which is today, tomorrow, and Wednesday, our greatest threat out of all 3 of those days is probably going to end up being in those 2 locations I pointed out just a couple minutes ago, and in north of the DFW, and then along the dry line cold front in just a couple of hours. Dry line cold front would be from, it looks like earlier now. It looks like HRRR initiates that earlier, so that would be closer to 10 p.m. Eastern till almost 1 a.m. Eastern. And then in Texas, it would be from about 1 a.m. Eastern till generally 5 a.m. Eastern. I did see someone talking about a tornado threat up in Colorado earlier, but I don't know where that was. I saw that on Twitter. I don't know if anything ever happened. All right, let's go back over to here. So again, this is your SPC outlook for today. I don't expect any like major changes here at the 8 p.m. update. They may expand that southwest and a little bit northwest. I'm not too sure if they're going to end up adding a hatched risk. That's all going to come down to their personal confidence. If the SPC has higher confidence in discrete cells firing for a couple hours, they'll definitely increase that tornado threat to a 10 hatched. And if they think it's going to just be supercells for 30 minutes to an hour and then grow upscale linear rapidly like the model runs show, then they probably will just keep it at a large 10%. No 15%. Unless it's for like spin up tornadoes, but I don't think we'll have a good enough environment that lasts that long. If we go ahead and pull up the HRRR, you can see your absolute peak environment. Your peak environment is gone by 1 a.m. Right around 1 a.m. It's fully gone in western Oklahoma. It looks like in Texas, it almost looks like in Texas, these supercells slash clusters of storms are training after one another. Which, if that's the case, they're going to just be going over the same environment and using the same lower end environment. Now, if they were moving dead east like this, then they'd be tapping into that more rich environment to their east. But it seems like they're going to be moving more northeast. We'll see. Tulsa, no. Tulsa's not going to be in the enhanced. Are you in the slight? Yeah, you are in the slight, yeah. Unless something big would have to change for them to put Tulsa in the enhanced. For any hazard. A 30% wind is your only possibility, but even that's pushing it a lot. I don't know if we've had like are you talking about like a moderate risk with less than 2% TOR? If you're talking about like a moderate with less than a 2% TOR, I don't think so. But I'm sure we've had a moderate risk like a 45 sig wind with a 10% TOR or a 10 sig TOR. So I'm sure we've had like a moderate risk that's not for tornadoes, but it's rather for just wind or just hail. But I forgot about the wind component. No. Your winds don't even look that bad. Look. You've got like no instability up there, dude. What? 130 cape is going to give you 80-mile-per-hour winds? What are you talking about, Catman? Huh? Are you talking about up here? There's no way you think you're going to get 80. There's no shot. I mean, shoot, the NAM 3K doesn't even have you getting any instability. I wouldn't rule out isolated 80-mile-an-hour winds tonight. I wouldn't fully rule that out. But I'm unsure on where the most likely scenario for that is. If I had to guess, it would be with this cluster / line. That would be moving to the northeast. Watch this. Watch this. Catman saying, I forget about D-Cape. Watch this. Ready? Watch this. He's going to make a fool of himself in about 5 seconds. About 5 seconds, he's going to be made a fool in front of almost 100 people. Wait for it. Either that or I am. Let's see. If this doesn't have more than 200 D-Cape, it's got to be like 1,000 D-Cape, actually. Let's get real close here. Let's get real close. Let's get real close to this 1,000 plus D-Cape. Let's get really close. -5. You have negative D-Cape. You have negative instability, buddy. Negative. You've got negative instability near Tulsa. And you're telling me you think you could get up to 80-mile-per-hour winds? You've got less than 0 instability up there. Congratulations. Somehow, according to you, that's 80-mile-per-hour winds. Now, if we go over to, like, here. So D-Cape is downdraft cape. It's what allows for damaging winds to be significant. If you have 1,000 D-Cape, typically that's going to be very substantial damaging winds as long as other ingredients are along the lines of that criteria as well. Out here near Texas, look at that. Almost 800 D-Cape. So that's definitely a wind threat of 70 to as high as 80 miles per hour there. And that's, I believe I pulled that just southeast of the DFW, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. I pulled that northeast of the DFW, actually. Just out in front of that cluster. So now you're saying OKC. All right, let's try that. This is going to be a bit of a convective, contaminated sounding, but we'll see. Yeah, D-Cape's a really good indicator to forecast a damaging wind threat. Ooh. Pretty bad on the lapse rates, but I'm not going to fully disagree there. 1,091 D-Cape. I won't fully disagree. And like I said, I pulled that very close to the OKC area. I tried to go where there's no convection. I won't fully disagree on that one. That could be possible. So definitely, definitely a good threat for damaging winds. As if we go over here, as you can see, the SPC has a 30% risk in OKC. They do not have a enhanced risk in Tulsa for the presumed -5 D-Cape that Catman says will produce up to 80-mile-per-hour winds, according to him. And I wouldn't be surprised if we get a hatched risk for wind. I think a hatched risk for wind is way more likely than a hatched risk for Tor. QLCS is a quasi-linear convective system. It is a line of damaging winds that typically can spin up tornadoes. And typically it is weak spin-up tornadoes. Do you think I could get 80-mile-per-hour winds? You're in Denton, right? You're definitely in the risk for 70 to as high as 80-mile-per-hour winds, but the 80-mile-per-hour wind threat's going to be isolated. It's going to be like with a specific bow echo that forms somewhere on the west side of this enhanced risk tonight. So I can't tell you if you're going to. That's impossible to say, but you definitely have the chance for it. If we look at the 22Z HRRR, it has that bow echo forming just to your north with the greatest threat for damaging winds. This is going backwards. You can see it starts out near Abilene, moves up to the northeast, tracks up like this, and then it would dissipate in this line as overconvection begins. So it tracks up just like this. Which that could be more north, that could be more south, that could be with this area of convection instead of this area of convection. It could be for both areas of convection. We don't know exactly where that bow echo could form or where that area of actual enhanced damaging winds could be. Which is why the SPCs just highlighted the whole area for a chance of 70 to 80 mile per hour winds. Let's see. Do you think they will decrease the tornado risk Tuesday to 5%? I think much of where they have the 10 and 10 SIG should be 5%. The only area that I think should stay 10 SIG, personal opinion, obviously, personal opinion, I think this region in here needs to stay 10 SIG. Maybe even a southward expansion of that 10 SIG a little bit closer to New Orleans. What they had yesterday looked better than what they have now, in my opinion. Because I'm very confident that this entire area is going to be fully overconvected. Especially this region here. So overconvected that you're probably not going to have much of an environment to work with. What do you mean, take that, TRG? What? Hey, buddy, at least I'm not the one who said 80 mile per hour winds possible in -5 decape. I'm curious what decape is with this. See what this has. Look up in chat. Yes, you could get 80 mile per hour winds with my -5 decape. Is that what you wanted me to see? This has 640 decape. Someone found a sounding on the NAM with 898 decape. I highly doubt that was actually pulled in Tulsa for the right time frame. I highly doubt that was pulled for the right time frame. Because if I pull it for the right time frame, let's go to when storms pull through. This is the correct time frame. Let's pull it near Tulsa. This is the NAM 18Z at 09Z. Wow, look at that. The never accurate model has 822 decape. Now let's pull it when storms roll through. We're going to have to go a little bit east of Tulsa for this one, because we don't want to be too convective contaminated there. 487 decape. Interesting. However, this is with the NAM model, so just like you commented on my Twitter post, Catman, thinking I didn't see it, bro was using the 18Z NAM. So I highly doubt that is going to verify. I wonder, I'll take it again with the NAM 3K, see if I was wrong. See if it's better a little bit south. You could have responded. I didn't want to give you that luxury. See if this is any higher. 810 decape there. But I pulled that northeast. Didn't I pull that northeast of... I didn't even get that close to Tulsa, did I? I pulled that northeast of Norman. Stupid me. That wasn't even near Tulsa. Let's go up here. Try this again. When is this expected to start? Western Oklahoma should see an explosion of supercells towards 10 p.m. Yeah, there's 895, but it is on the NAM model. So you definitely have a chance for damaging winds, for sure, up to 70 mile per hour winds, but I wouldn't be too sure about 80. I mean, shoot, if this produced 80 mile an hour winds, my threat in North Carolina is going to go crazy. Dude, if that produces 80 mile per hour winds over Tulsa, man, I quit. You can see that greatest wind threat's definitely going to be in OKC pointing south all the way to the DFW. This whole area in here. Generally. Maybe a little too far west. I think I drew too far west. And then that's going to continue Tuesday afternoon, and it could still produce widespread 60 to 70 mile an hour winds. We might have a chance for up to 80 somewhere in that line of damaging winds when it moves through. But I don't know exactly where that would be. If I had to guess, the best chance would be the southern side of that line, so northern Louisiana, because that's the best chance for any instability to be. So if we get a sounding in front of that, see if that shows anything noteworthy at all. Waiting. Come on. 608D Cape. Not really enough, in my opinion, to promote up to 80 mile per hour winds, but it's very isolated 80 mile per hour wind threat. It is not like a derecho or something. It is a very isolated 80 mile per hour wind threat for very late tonight into tomorrow. I can't tell you this is the exact timing, but I'll show you a model run. So generally here is 9 p.m. Central, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That's 10 a.m. tomorrow morning when it begins to exit eastern Oklahoma and begins to start exiting eastern Texas. New HRRR wants a derecho in Oklahoma, like the 23C. Hold on, this might be crazy then if you're right. Let's see. You're not fully wrong, but I don't think that's gonna last a full 250 miles. But wow. Yeah, this could definitely fire like 9:30, 10. This could definitely fire. It keeps trending back more and more. Like yesterday, this is a model run from last night. It didn't fire storms until midnight. Midnight is when it fired. And then earlier this morning, it started firing storms closer just before midnight. And then earlier this afternoon, it was firing storms towards 11 p.m. And now the newest model run fires storms towards 10. So it keeps going earlier and earlier. It's going to be whenever that cold front hits that dry line. Wow. I didn't even realize your moisture downtrended up here quite a lot on the newer model run. Let's see. Oh, never mind. It's like 1 degree. It looks like a lot because of the color table, but it's only like 1 to 2 degrees. Never mind. I thought that was like a 5-degree difference there. It's downtrended a bit. Probably not anything noteworthy there. Yeah, so you can see all these little cells here that could produce brief spin-up tornadoes. I really don't think they're going to be able to tap into that potential strong tornado environment until probably after at least the earliest, the absolute earliest is 4 p.m. tomorrow. They could tap into that strong tornado environment. But you can see they're just all over convected. They still have good curvature to them, which means there's definitely good amount of wind shear. There's a good amount of thermos in this area, but it's just a lot of over convection. So if that over convection downtrends overnight, or if tomorrow morning we don't see all that over convection fire, then we'll know that that strong tornado threat would be more heightened into much of Louisiana, like the SPC currently has. TRG, could I get a marginal tomorrow? No. You ain't getting no marginal. I won't allow it. You're a mod. That mod dome's gonna hold. I'm not too sure. It's a very isolated threat. I can't tell you you will. I can't tell you you won't. If we go ahead and look at satellite imagery really quick. I don't know if, let's see, this one might be the best. So there's your dry line. Oh, well, we got to see it better. Let's go to Mesoanalysis. That would really help. I don't want to draw this out incorrectly. Yeah, so I am right. Your dry line is right about here. So it's gone up into south central Kansas. Now, where's your cold front at? It's got to be close. That's got to be really close. I'm going to go look on WPC really quick, too. So they have your cold front is in the north central Texas panhandle. I think I can tell where that is. Is that it? Yeah, so that's the dry line. Very obvious. I need to know exactly where that cold front is, though. It's somewhere in there. So if I switch you to this scene here. So there's your dry line. That is the easiest thing to spot. And if we turn on your, let's go to Mesoanalysis. There's your low pressure up there in Colorado, somewhere in Colorado. Generally in that area. Yep, that's where it is. Just confirming. So it's up there in Colorado. Very closed low, tightly closed low over Colorado. So I imagine your 500 millibar looks pretty impressive too. Oh, that is old. That is 3 hours old. So I'm going to have to pull up the newer Mesoanalysis for that. All right, so here is your current Mesoanalysis as well from the SPC. You can see your 850 millibar low is located up here, whereas your surface low is a little bit more east. So your surface low with your 850 millibar low is not very well aligned, which that's not unusual. That's not something that's unusual with weather. But I can tell you it's definitely not way back over there into southeastern. Is that what is that state? The state everyone forgets? Utah. I'm pretty sure that's Utah. Or is that Nevada? Okay, that is Utah. I can't tell, the state lines aren't bold enough for me over there. So there's your low. Your cold front is probably somewhere in here, if I had to guess. It's somewhere back in there, and that actually might not be the right angle of it either. Okay, that is the right angle. I was drawing it correctly. So yeah, your cold front goes down like that. I don't know its exact area. It's somewhere. It's somewhere in the panhandle of Texas and panhandle of Oklahoma right now. So your dry line's there in the pink, and your cold front's there in the blue, and your low pressure's in the pink up here into southeast Colorado. Whenever that blue line hits the pink, that's when storms explode. So you can see we're still a good 3 hours away. There's still a good 3 hours worth of ground to make up here. This one is new. This has your lows a little bit more like this here. There's your new one. I think that's within the last 15 minutes or so there. So it's definitely moving. It's just going to be whenever that cold front catches up to that dry line, that's when storms are going to ignite, and then it's going to become a cold front dry line. If we take all this off and look at just your 500 millibar analysis, which I'm pretty sure this is slightly old, but your low is somewhere in this area. Your 500 millibar low is in this area. Your actual surface low is back out here into southeastern Colorado. And you can see you've got a trough here. Your actual big trough is negatively, or rather positively tilted there. That's going to swing negatively tilted tomorrow. And I don't really see any notable short waves here. It's easier to spot them from 700 millibars. I don't think we have that. But I don't see any big short waves out in this area. So it's just going to be your, simply your cold front hitting that dry line is going to ignite those thunderstorms. I do see a short wave here now, actually. There's a short wave right there. But I don't see any good short waves. I'll check the 700 millibar analysis on Mesoanalysis from the SPC just to see if I'm missing one. It's definitely not as notable on this map. This has got to be behind. Yeah, because look at this. Look here. That mesoanalysis has to be wrong. Because you can clearly see your shortwave right there. There's your shortwave. And of course, there's your low. And if we go to your 500 millibar analysis on here, again, you just have a broad low in southwestern Colorado. I don't like that. Why is College of DuPages is wrong? Like, completely wrong. It's throwing me off. I don't think I'm going to use that one again, because you can clearly tell that shortwave is right there. That's why you have such a good lower level jet. 500 millibar analysis. You can still relatively easily see that shortwave right there. Again, broad low back out southwest Colorado. You see your other main negatively tilted trough there. That's your main negative tilt. That's going to be pushing eastward. That's going to be what helps your severe threat tomorrow in the evening hours. But it's going to be this broad low here. And then that short wave here. And that's going to help ignite these thunderstorms. Especially the low pressure with the cold front. That's your forcing mechanism. If you go back to your 850 millibar, that low pressure with your cold front somewhere generally in there. And then again, your dry line right. If I can get a different color, right in there is your dry line. So when that cold front hits the dry line, it's going to explode. Yep. Yeah, I'm a little too far east on the dry line there. Just a little bit too far east on the drawing of that dry line. The tiniest bit. A tiniest bit too far eastward there. But there you go. That's your analysis of it. Again, you can see your 500 millibar flow. And it's really strong near that, just to the southeast of that surface low. Don't think there's anything else I need to show here. Yeah, there's your satellite imagery. That's more of where your dry line is set up there. Obviously, it's not even nearly as potent on the northern side. Your main dry line is back out here. And then again, can't tell where it goes on satellite imagery from there. There's your downdraft cape, by the way. You can see how high that's going to get, especially into central, most of Oklahoma in 4 hours. Most of Oklahoma, north central Texas, going to have a lot of decape in 4 hours when those storms begin to fire. I'm a little rusty with this Mesoanalysis. I'm not even going to lie. I forgot it even had decape on it. Yeah. Alrighty. Any lapse rate issue here? And that's going to push eastward. I'm not worried about lapse rates. Alrighty, let's go ahead and move this back here. Also, we have blizzard warnings out in Omaha for up to 5 inches of snow and 70-mile-an-hour winds. Confidence increased on that. Some chasers are choosing that blizzard over the Dixie Alley threat, which I am not going to argue there. Personally, I think I would end up going for the blizzard over Dixie Alley probably 9 times out of 10. The only one time would be if it is a very substantial Dixie Alley threat. So yeah, overall, pretty potent setup tonight across portions of Oklahoma and Texas. We're going to end up with widespread 60, 70-mile-an-hour winds, isolated 80-mile-an-hour winds, multiple tornadoes, several tornadoes, as the SPC says, and maybe even an isolated strong tornado or two will be possible, especially across the slight risk and the enhanced risk area in the yellow and the orange. I also could see some isolated large hail, especially along the dry line in western Oklahoma towards the 10, 11 p.m. time frame, Eastern time. Then tomorrow, really same goes. Very potent setup in terms of, at least with the kinematic side of things. You're not as potent with the thermodynamics going into tomorrow, but still could result in a couple tornadoes, especially in the southeast extent of that enhanced risk and slight risk. Towards the evening hours, widespread 60, 70-mile-an-hour winds. A lot more isolated 80-mile-per-hour wind threat tomorrow than today, in my opinion. At the moment, I feel like tonight's wind threat is more substantial than tomorrow's. So we'll see how it verifies, but definitely going to be extremely interesting to watch tomorrow unfold. I'll watch some of tonight's threat unfold, and then I'm going to head to sleep after midnight. So, like I said, urgent live stream isn't completely out of the question between the... most likely between the 10 p.m. and midnight time frame. I don't think I'll go live between 9 or 10, so mainly after 10 p.m. between 10 midnight Eastern time could go live again. I was going to try to stay live for the SPC Outlook, but that's another 30 minutes. And I've ran out of stuff to talk about here. Do I do it? Do I just go a little longer? Do I just stay live a little more than 30 more minutes? just to see that new SPC outlook. I'm not planning to cover it because it's overnight, but if those supercells really explode and they start going crazy, I'll definitely start up the stream again. I guess we'll go till the SPC does an update, and then we'll end shortly after that. That will also give us, pretty sure, not for sure, but I'm pretty sure that will give us the first few frames of the 0Z HRRR as well. I feel like today's going to end up being worse than, or rather tonight's going to end up being worse than tomorrow evening. It's definitely possible. Yeah, I just wanted to double check. The low is definitely in southeast Colorado. For sure. It's not as strong towards the 850 millibar. The low is not as obvious. Oh, I take that back. Never mind. I don't know what College of DuPage was on about there. Especially with the 500 millibar. I'll look at that one more time because I'm really curious. If that's, yeah, that's, I mean, that's wrong. What is it based off of? The RAP model, which is Mesoanalysis. That's just dead wrong. Above my face cam, that 500 millibar is dead wrong. This is not your broad low in this area here. Your low is more over here in the 500 millibar range. I'll go ahead and just zoom in for you guys. So that's where your low is in the 500 millibar range, and then towards the surface, it's more of over here in this area. I meant to change that to pink. There you go. So 500 millibar, it's a couple hundred miles to the west. Surface, it's southeast Colorado. And then College of DuPage, for some reason, 500 millibar says that it's in southeastern Utah. If I remember that state right. It's right in front of me. Yeah, it's Utah. So that's interesting. The 500 millibar RAP analysis on College of DuPage is not fully correct. I wonder why that is. I don't think there's anything else I can tell here, or show at least from this side. Yeah, so that's your wind vectors. If you're ever wondering how moisture from the Gulf gets pulled northward, there you go. When you have that big negatively tilted, or any trough as a whole, if we look back at the 500 millibar, even though it's not the most accurate, at least I can draw off of it. So you have this huge trough out here. And what that's doing is that's pulling up moisture from the Gulf up like this. It's pulling it up. And you can see the low is in here, so these winds are pulling upwards like this as well. Feeding up into the low. So your main area of moisture is right in here. That should be where your main pocket of moisture is located. Let's see how wrong I am, actually. Let's go ahead and see how wrong I am. I am very much correct. A little bit more southwest, but that's very much correct there. Your dew points haven't pushed as far northwest as I drew out there. But yeah, you can see where that dry line is still obviously set up. Western Oklahoma generally in there. it's harder to tell how far that goes southward without instability. There you go. Instability is the best way to find the dry line on Mesoanalysis. You can see it much clearer there. You can see all this dust back behind here. That's what's that shows you how strong your winds are back here, and what's causing that fire risk is those wind gusts. So you've got wind gusts as high as 50 miles per hour back out in that area. And if you look back at your streamlines, or rather your wind vectors, you can see those winds are out from the west, southwest or so, as they go up into that low. There's your capping too, by the way. I know that's a little difficult to see there because it's in blue. I don't think that capping is as accurate. Oh, no, never mind. It is. It definitely is. I thought the capping was more substantial eastward, but never mind. Apparently that is accurate. I'm going to go look on Mesoanalysis again. On the National Weather Service site. Not on College of Dew page. See if that is accurate. Let's see. Okay, it is. So that's correct. It's like really the only thing screwed up with this Mesoanalysis is the 500 millibar, and that's like the most important thing on Mesoanalysis. Is the 500 millibar, because that's where you see where your trough is located, where your mid-level low is located, where short waves are located, where the actual tilt of the trough's located. I mean, that's like the most important thing. Anything else on here? You never know what they add secretly on here, so I have to check it every now and then, see if they update it on me. So you never know. There's the SPC Day 1 Outlook. That's going to update in 30 minutes. We'll stay live for that, because that's not too long. Just 30 more minutes there. I'll probably go just the tiniest bit over that as well. Unless the Outlook comes out early. If that, even then, probably not. We'll probably stay live till just after 8 p.m. Eastern. The trough is positively tilted at the moment. Even though that low pressure's location's wrong, it is definitely positively tilted. It's going to swing neutral tonight, and then it will be negative tomorrow. And you can see the short wave right in here. You have a few little short waves, but your main trough is this right here. That's your main trough, this one. Yeah, it's definitely going to become negative. Yes. It is very much going to be negative tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow night it is going to be a fully negatively tilted trough. So by tomorrow, this time tomorrow, the trough is going to be completely negative across this whole area here. It will be a negatively tilted trough in that whole region, pointing to the southeast. No self-promotion. No self-promotion in the chat. Yeah. Yeah, Ben, they do. The issue with this one is it has a tight warm sector. It's going to have a very small and tight warm sector, especially on the northern side of the greater dew point. So into like southeast Arkansas, it's going to be a very tiny 60-degree dew point warm sector. So if this was just in like mid-May, or not mid-May, well, yeah, mid-May, but anywhere from like mid-April all the way through all of April into May, this would have been a very, a very significant severe weather event. Which it's in early March, which is why when we saw it on the model runs, we're like, okay, it's going to be tornado season, so thermos will be better. So that's why the SPC went ahead and outlined that huge 15% chance for severe weather, and then eventually the large 30% on the day 6 outlook. And as we got closer, we slowly started to know, especially as cams came in 2 days out, we started to know that the warm sector wouldn't be as big. Let me switch you guys back over here again. All right, 23Z HRRR is done rendering now. I mean, it's definitely not too terrible towards the 1 p.m. noon, 1 p.m. time frame out here. Still so overconvected, but man, does this ever look more intense. This looks substantially more intense than what it looks like tomorrow. Look at that little guy right there. Watch. He pretty much falls apart in 1 hour, though. Doesn't really move much, just falls apart right on the tail end of the dry line there. Or at least the where the dry line cold front meet. And then once your cold front progresses more, you get more storms firing off the dry line. Yeah, you can see your cold front's a little bit later further south. Your cold front's like this. So it's quite substantially later on the southern end. At least on this model run. And then it speeds up very rapidly. It ends up meeting, I can't tell exactly where it is, but generally that would be the occluded front, and then your actual cold front would come down here, cold front dry line. So there you go. Here's your wind gusts, by the way. It's going to be pretty windy out there. It's going to be quite windy out there tomorrow morning. And these are in knots. So about 50 knots. That's going to be closer to 53 miles per hour, 54 miles per hour, right around there. But just to show you how it's going to be windy. Even if you don't get a line of severe weather with damaging winds, it's going to be pretty windy out there. Just a bit of wind. I'm going to go check our long range, or rather our deterministic in the very long range really quick here. We'll look at that together. Go check the GFS and the GEFS. Go see what it has a long term here. So there's our potential severe threat on the 8th, really the 8th, maybe the 9th as well. You see that trough pull through across portions of the southern U.S. and central U.S. If we look at the actual warm sector there, you can see really the main severe threat would be limited to Dixie Alley, far southern U.S. there. If we go ahead and pull that out further, let's see what else happens here. Another trough pulls in towards the 12th, 11th, 12th time frame. Across much of this one's a little bit more towards the mid-latitudes. That's closer towards the central U.S. Much closer towards the central United States there on the 11th, 12th, and 13th. Oof, that's a very far north warm sector there. Quite impressive. Won't happen. Next, let's go on over to the 14th and 15th. Yikes. And this is the trough that a lot of our ensembles were hinting towards on yesterday's live stream. We'll go look at those in just a second. Sharply negatively tilted trough. Looks like another bowling ball. Another bowling ball trough there, and that would be a outbreak of severe weather in the southern U.S. But thankfully, that is very far out, so I highly doubt that will actually happen to that extent. And then you get another one at the very end of the GFS model run. You get another one towards the mid-latitude areas in the U.S., central U.S. Let's look at the agreement here. That is definitely very good agreement on a trough right there. Really, really good agreement. Sometime between the 12th and the 15th. Really good agreement on a trough moving through the U.S. Let's just pull that back a little bit more. There's the agreement on March 8th. That looks more orientated positively. Is that on the deterministic as well? Yeah. Deterministic has that more overall positively tilted. However, still would result in some severe weather. That's already pretty dang close. That's only 126 hours out. We'll definitely keep an eye on that Saturday. That's this week. All right, let's go over to our ensembles here as well. So this is your ensembles on the GEFS ensembles. You can see our severe threat tomorrow. Tomorrow, our severe threat right in here. That's tonight into tomorrow. And then Wednesday's severe threat right in there. Saturday's severe threat. And then we get towards the 12th. Something there. Definitely going to get a big trough between the 12th and the 15th of March. Definitely going to get a big trough. And it's definitely going to cause some severe weather. Yeah, definitely definitely quite the signal after the 12th of March for sure. You can see all those higher end numbers on all your GFS ensembles. Definitely some much higher end numbers there. Compared to like tomorrow's severe threat, you can see those lower end numbers. They're not even 1 yet. So definitely going to watch towards the middle of March. In terms of locations, as we go towards the middle of March here, you can see probably going to be aimed towards the southern U.S. I wouldn't be surprised if this moves a little bit eastward as well. There is some going northward, but that's so far out. It's going to be too inaccurate there. But generally, we'll be watching this portion of the U.S. for severe weather towards the middle of March. Remember, it's quite difficult for our warm sector to get well north into the central plains in March. Definitely by no means impossible. It's just not common you see a favorable warm sector that far north. 0Z HRRR should be rendering in here in about 10 minutes or so. Let's compare this. If we can just get another open really quick. All right, so this is the HRRR 18Z at 21Z. Actually, we want to pull that back. Pull that back to 16Z. And this will be for 16Z. So this is your 23Z HRRR versus your 18Z. 23Z HRRR is definitely slower. It slows down a bit, but it still keeps the overall slop and mess. What about instability wise? You can definitely tell this one is the newest one. 23Z is definitely slower. Definitely slower there. And if we look at supercell composite as well, which probably won't be much of a difference. Yeah, it's just generally slower and slightly more northwest. But those will be the tiny little shifts on our model runs that could end up increasing the tornado threat near Shreveport. But right now it looks messy. Also, I want to pull this back just a bit. That is 11Z. And this will be 11Z as well. You can see the difference there between our older model run, newer model run. Definitely uptrend in more substantial convection north of the DFW. This is 5Z here. You see the difference there between the new model, old model. New model definitely has more severe weather to the southwest. Welcome, Isabel. That is crazy timing. The fact you tuned in right when we were looking at Shreveport. That's crazy. Yeah, the newer models are definitely a little bit more north. Slightly more north. With the instability. So that could increase your threat just a bit. But the messiness should keep it relatively at bay. But definitely quite the difference in instability there, at least in terms of the northern extent. I didn't really realize that till now. You can see on the newer one. Newer one is all the way up into here. The older one is much faster and is more down to here. But obviously this is just the HRRR, so it could easily trend right back down. So we're going to wait for the outlook here in a couple minutes. We'll also see the first few frames of the HRRR 0Z. Yeah, we'll find out tomorrow. The most likely time for a live stream tomorrow is definitely 6 p.m. Eastern. I plan to be live at 6 p.m. Eastern, but there's also a really good chance we're live before that. I plan to be live anywhere between 3 and 6 p.m. Eastern time tomorrow. How cooked am I from rare to well done? If we're talking about the tornado threat, you're probably like medium rare for the tornado threat. Not that bad, at least on the model runs. If that uptrends, you're going to be definitely more cooked. Damaging winds, you're like, well done. Like, the damaging wind threat, we're probably going to see up to 75 mile per hour winds there. Unless that line isn't as organized, which is possible. You see NAM has that way more well-organized 75 mile per hour wind damaging line there. HRRR does not. So winds is definitely your biggest threat there, by far. The tornado threat, I'm not too concerned for your area. Definitely could see some spin-up tornadoes. But definitely more questioning, still questioning why the SPC put the 10 sig into Shreveport. In my opinion, this part should be non-sig here and probably 5%. I really think the only 10% should be a 10 sig in this area here. And maybe even a little bit more south too, closer to Baton Rouge and New Orleans. Watch the next update. They put you even more into the sig. Put the 10 sig up into like northeastern Texas. Push it all the way up to almost like Paris, Texas. Doesn't it come out at like 12:30? I'm pretty sure the next update for day 2 is at 12:30. Eastern. Watch out, Isabel. You might get an extreme risk for fire. Don't jinx yourself. End up with an extreme risk for fire the next day. Alright, 0Z should render in very, very soon. Let me go check Pivotal. Because sometimes that renders it in sooner. It's not rendering yet. It's literally any minute. Upgrade tonight to moderate? Buddy. No. No, there's no shot. Find it weird how CSU barely has a slight risk for tornadoes tonight, and barely a slight risk for wind, and just barely a slight risk for hail. No, I don't think any risk is going moderate. I don't think tonight, more of tonight, or tomorrow will go moderate. Hold on. Should look at NATO cast. I don't think it's back yet, is it? What? Okay, hold on. I don't know if that's actually true. Dude. I'm going to send that to Lucky. I don't want to send it or show it to you guys because it's not what's going to happen. I'll have to go fact check this after I end the live stream. It's something might be hype casting. I can't check it now though because I'm not allowed to show it on stream. I figured you were joking, Sam, but I'm just being real, trying to think of what could go moderate. I don't see anything. Like, I even think a moderate for wind is near impossible. It's just not enough confidence for today or tomorrow. There's no way they'll ever introduce a 75 sig tour. There's no way. A 60 sig tour is like a once in a double decade ordeal. Probably not even that. So, extremely unlikely. For tomorrow, like I mentioned before, I really do believe that the sig tour threat should be limited to like this region in here. I personally think that sig needs to go just a bit south, just in case any supercells do manage to get going from confluence bands. And then I'm really curious to see how this verifies tomorrow morning. I'm really curious to see how that verifies, with the hatched risk being not only so far north, but also so far northwest. Now, the damaging wind risk, I agree with that. I don't really disagree with that as much. I feel like the enhanced for wind could be pulled a little bit more northeast, but I don't think that's a bad outlook there at all. And the hail threat, too. Not bad. Only small complaint is I think that 10 sig's too far northwest, but they're the professionals, so we'll see how it verifies. I'm very curious to see how that part of the risk verifies. Zerzy's still not coming in. Always notice I'm on the edge of these risks. Well, Isabel, I was like that yesterday for my slight risk, but you know what they did? You know what they did? Whoop, put me right back in it. So maybe just don't have a weather dome. Don't know what to tell you. I'm going to get nothing, by the way. That's why I'm storm chasing. My house is probably going to get light rain at the most. So that's why I'm chasing. But I have noticed it. I'm not going to lie. I have noticed that Shreveport's either barely in it or barely out of it. One or the other. For snow, ice, severe weather, fire, you're either barely in it or barely out of it. And if you're fully in it, it underperforms. Did you really, Caleb? Are you serious? You never knew that? There's no way you never knew that, dude. That's insane, Caleb. Pull up Twitter, which is a mistake, to see the latest SBC outlook, because Twitter gets it first. Yeah, seriously, is really taking its sweet time, ain't it? It is coming in slow. Very slow. It was already rendering by now. Sure, Isabel. We can sit on Discord or Twitter, whichever one you'd like. I have a feeling I know what it's going to be. We'll see if I'm dead wrong. That's not what I thought it was. Hold on. I want to see this. Oops, not that. I've looked at this before, but I didn't know it had such a large page. Yeah, I have seen this before, actually. But I didn't know it had so many products outlined. Like, I only saw the day one before. Sweet. Well, I might use that more. It refreshes every 5 minutes, so I'm not too sure which one's going to get that first. If it was like refreshing every few seconds, then it would definitely be the quickest. Maybe it is the quickest, though. Who knows? All right, there's 0Z, finally. I'm glad 0Z didn't take this long yesterday, or we would have been live for 7 hours waiting for it to render in. Because yesterday it came in like a good solid 5-10 minutes earlier. By the time we were talking about it, it was already like 16 frames in. I can refresh it as much as I want. Oh, man. Get an auto clicker out. Just spam the refresh button at the top of every hour for the SBC outlooks. Okay, yeah, that's still for 3 p.m. So we're going to wait for the 0Z HRRR, at least some of it to render in. We'll see how much it gets in about 20 minutes, and then we'll conclude. I don't think the SBC outlook will be a whole 20 minutes late, but we'll definitely give it 20 minutes for the 0Z to render in. As far as it gets, that's what we'll talk about. What if storms fire earlier? They can't. Unless the cold front's quicker. That's like saying, exactly what you said. Like, can storms fire without the cold front? Like, they don't have any forcing to fire. It's taking one of the main things that forms storms and just ripping it out, and it's not possible. It's like saying, can we get tornadoes with 0 instability? So they won't fire early. Even if they did, it wouldn't matter a lot. It wouldn't change the threat. The threat would just be more west, so it'd be west of the SBC outlook, so the SBC's outlook would just need to be shifted a lot more west. What are with these questions? What if a supercell randomly turned around 90 degrees, went back to where it initiated? Is it past some of y'all's bedtime or something? Caleb, go to sleep. But no, it would probably just die out. If it goes back where it came from, it's going to go over the same environment that it just used up, and it will just die out. So that's probably what it would do. It would probably just die out. Probably wouldn't be as interesting as you'd think. Unless they're talking about a northwest moving supercell. But if you're talking about like a supercell fires, moves east, and then stops and goes directly back where it came from, it would just die out. Jeez. HRRR took explosive development to another level. There it is at, what is that, 10? There it is at 11. There it is at 12. So that's definitely going to be a big risk for severe weather there, so I wouldn't be shocked if the SBC expands westward. Well, SBC outlook's going to be late. Twitter's going to start hollering moderate risk. Normally that's what they do if the SBC's late. Everyone starts going moderate, high risk. They're late by a minute. Yeah, so you can see the HRRR has the cold front right here. That's where the cold front is on the HRRR. I'm losing exactly where it is. Somewhere like that. I lost it. I lost it right here. I lost where the cold front was located. Oh, I see it now. Right in here. There's your cold front. It goes up to your low. There you go. And that's why these cells in Oklahoma fire first, and then as it moves more eastward down here, the next, like, 2-3 frames on the HRRR, you should see storms blow up out here. Right here, you should see storms explode on the next, within the next 3 frames. That's what Twitter does. I'm surprised I haven't seen anybody talk about a moderate risk being issued. I saw people talking about a moderate like a day or two ago, but today I haven't seen a single person mention a moderate risk. At least on Twitter, that is. I've seen it in my own chat, but not on Twitter. SPC is 30 seconds late. Oh no. High risk, I guess. Oh, there they are. There you go. They just issued their outlook. And it is barely changed. It's barely changed. At least in the actual categorical risk portion of it. I haven't seen the probabilities yet. Wait for that. See if they added any hatched. Now we wait for the probabilities to come in, which is typically about 2 minutes. Normally it's about 2 minutes before it actually gets to the SPC site and loads. Well, they were a minute late. Wonder if anyone on Twitter tweeted SPC's late. Oh, Isabel did. Isabel tweeted about it. 3 seconds late. I don't see a hatched, but I don't know if this is actually the right one. It says it's updated, but I'm not sure if it actually is. Oh, there's those storms exploding in Texas there. So there you go. Like I said, within 2 frames. I said within 3 frames it was in 2. Alright, apparently these are all the new probs, and I don't see anything different. Yep. I really see 0 things different with this outlook. Little surprised they didn't shift absolutely anything northwest. A few tornadoes possible. Wow, that's backed off a lot on the tornado threat, wording-wise. So they're less confident in a tornado threat now. Because they went from saying several tornadoes to a few. Yep. That's the probs. 10%, 30% wind, 10% tornado, 30% wind, 15% hail. TRG somehow has a site that gives them access to the SPC Outlook early. Yeah, I've got 2 of them now, thanks to Isabel. They were like literally the same, by the way, Isabel. I got it at like the exact same time. From both sites. All right, whilst this loads in, I'll be right back. I'm going to just let this load in a few frames. I'll be right back, and then we'll see what it looks like, and then end up ending in like about 10 minutes. So I'll be right back. I'm back. Let me turn on my camera. TRG. No, Isabel, tell us this. The site? What? What did I miss? What are you talking about, Caleb? Oh, the site. Okay, that's not the right site. You spelled it wrong, buddy. It's S-I-T-E, site. Not sight as in your eyesight. Dude. That's why you confused me there. Ben, it's not expected to fire until 11, so you got another 3 hours, bud. Hate to tell you. We can start looking for signs of convection at 10, though. Actually, yeah. Maybe even 9:30. I'd start looking at satellite and looking closely at 9:30 in about an hour and a half. Yeah, the new SPC outlook for today's threat or tonight's threat in Oklahoma. Just go to the SPC site and refresh day 1. And then you'll see it. Thunderstorms are forecasted to develop across parts of southern and the central plains this evening and continue to increase overnight. A few tornadoes, damaging wind gusts, and large hail are all possible. So, there you go. Yeah, it probably does, Caden. I'm not surprised, but that environment won't even be used up until 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. So we'll see a couple more frames of the 0Z HRRR, but I'm going to end the stream before it gets to central Louisiana. We're going to start ending in 5 minutes. I really didn't want to go past 2 hours today, so that way I could save streaming time for tomorrow. But then again, I don't think we're going to be live too long tomorrow. I don't think we'll really be live that long tomorrow because the threat doesn't look that substantial. I'll go live when it really starts to pop off tomorrow evening, if it even does. Proxy, thank you for continuing your EF4 membership for now over 13 months. Saying thanks for all your hard work to keep us safe, TRG. Proud supporter for 13 months. Glad to see you back in here, Proxy. Hopefully all is well. It does feel like that, doesn't it, Caleb? It definitely does. Let's go back to the 0Z HRRR again. It's really locked in on just north of the DFW for the biggest threat, as well as the first hour those supercells fire in Oklahoma. The first hour, maybe 2. Thoughts on shear in your area? You should have pretty good shear. It actually might be too much. Yeah, the main question is probably going to end up just being overconvection. Even if you have 2,000 instability with your 8,000 shear, that overconvection is just going to be too much for it. So it probably that overconvection itself is just going to completely destroy your overall tornado threat. Unless that overconvection does not happen, which is what the NAM 3K does show that being a possibility. But even with that, you can see those supercells never mature out in front of the line. But you do get a stronger line because of the lack of overconvection. Thank you, Proxy, for the $50 donation. That is greatly appreciated. It's a sticker, so I can't heart it. If it's a super chat, I can heart it. I can't heart the stickers. But I appreciate the $50 donation. We are 1 like away from 100 likes, so if you haven't hit that like button, it's greatly appreciated. Also, consider hitting the subscribe button with the notification bell set to all, so you know when I go live or upload a video. Again, we'll be live tomorrow, definitely between 3 and 6 p.m. Eastern. Planning for 6 p.m. Eastern, but could be earlier. Also, if you want to share the stream with your family, friends, social media, it's greatly appreciated. Again, Proxy, thank you for the $50 donation. I hate to do it, Proxy, but we are wrapping up. So, Proxy, if you have any questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat, and I'll try to answer it for you. Let's see if Proxy's going to get any of that snow that I know she loves, right? Big snow lover? Definitely. Flurries, you ain't going to get anything significant. What in the name of the GFS? I wouldn't be so sure about that happening. That's probably the GFS being the GFS. We'll keep an eye on that one. What in the world? No, you're not going to get any snow, Proxy, unless it's very light snow. 2 proxies. I'm going to have to start calling them by their actual names, because we got Proxy and then we got Proxima. I'm going to have to start calling Proxy, Proxima, and Proxy. Gracious. It's confusing. Alrighty, we're going to go ahead and conclude here. I appreciate you guys for tuning in. I'll see you guys tomorrow, definitely at or before 6 p.m. Eastern. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your night. Again, an urgent live stream is possible tonight. Urgent live stream is possible between 8 p.m., or rather between 10 p.m. and midnight tonight. Don't bet on it, and don't guarantee that I'll be live, but it is possible if things really explode, and depending on how bad of a threat it is. But anyways, thank you, Moss, for Mon Chat. Thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Proxy, for the donation and the extra month of a membership. I'll catch you guys in tomorrow's live stream. Stay safe, watch the severe weather, and the snowfall. Have a fantastic rest of your Monday night. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch the severe weather and the snowfall. Thank you, Moss, for on chat. Have a great rest of your Monday night. Goodbye.